Hadrian's Wall was the most formidable frontier the Roman Empire ever built in the distant north. A line of stone and turf running for 117 kilometres, it stretched from the Solway Firth on the western coast of Britain to the River Tyne in the east. In its strongest places, the wall stood over 6 metres high and nearly 3 metres thick, wide enough for patrols of soldiers to march along its top. Construction began in the year 122 under Emperor Hadrian. It lasted about 6 years, demanding the whole labour of 3 Roman legions, tens of thousands of men quarrying stone, digging ditches and shaping the wall into existence. At its peak, the frontier was guarded by as many as 15,000 troops, spread across mile castles, watchtowers and a chain of grand forts that dotted the landscape. But this wall was never just a barrier of stone. It marked the razor's edge between Rome's empire and the untamed north. To the south lay towns, roads, villas and order. To the north, wild moors and forests filled with tribes the Romans called barbarians. Here storms lashed without mercy. Snow buried camps and supplies often ran thin. Raiders tested the defences with sudden attacks, and rumours of uprisings spread like fire in the barracks. Life on this frontier was not only a matter of guarding the empire's edge, but of surviving the land itself. If you enjoy these stories, a like or a subscription means more than you think. It directly supports the channel and keeps these long journeys alive, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you listening from and what time is it there right now? Now settle deeper into your blankets, let your breath slow, and together we'll slip into the journey. You wake inside the dim barracks, the horn's call still echoing in your chest. The floor beneath you is stone, rough and damp, and the thin layer of straw that cushions you does little to soften it. Around you men groan and stir, pushing off cloaks stiff with the night's cold. The air is thick with the sharp smell of smoke from the brazier and the sour dullness of sweat and wool. A cough breaks the silence, then another. Boots scrape across the ground. As soldiers rise one by one, the sound of routine practice so long, it has become a kind of music. You shuffle outside, joining the line forming in the courtyard. The morning is pale, the kind of light that offers no warmth. The centurion paces before you, eyes sharp, voice cutting through the mist. He checks your stance, your equipment, your readiness. The sword at your side, short and double-edged, must gleam even in this grey light. The spear tip must be oiled against rust. Shields are banged to test their firmness. It is ritual, but ritual here is survival. A dull blade or a cracked shield could mean the difference between life and death when the frontier stirs. You glance at the faces beside you. They are not all Roman. Some men speak with the soft burr of Gaul, others mutter in the tones of Syria, and still others carry the sun-browned skin of Spain. You catch fragments of words in languages you don't understand. The empire stretches thousands of kilometres, yet here, at its edge, all those distances collapse into the length of a barrack room. You are brothers in duty, bound not by blood or birthplace but by the wall. After inspection the men are divided. Some are sent to repair stretches of the wall where storms have loosened the stone. Others carry supplies up from the storage rooms, hauling sacks of grain or amphorae of wine. A few are sent to the stables to tend the horses. Your assignment is to the wall itself. You climb the narrow steps, the stone worn by countless boots, until the land unfolds before you. The view is stark. To the south, rolling fields marked with roads, farmsteads, and the faint smoke of villages under Rome's order. To the north, wild land spreads, heather, bogs, and distant ridges half hidden in mist. Somewhere out there are the tribes the empire fears, painted warriors with hair wild as the wind. Moving silently across ground, they know better than you ever will. Some say they are savages, but when you stare into that mist, you wonder if they look back at you and think the same. The wind up here cuts deep. It whistles through the gaps in your cloak, numbing your fingers on the spear shaft. You pace the parapet, eyes searching the horizon. The watchtower nearby holds 2 soldiers, their silhouettes blurred against the fog. Every so often their signal horn sounds, marking the rhythm of duty. Time slows on the wall. Each hour feels like a day, each day like a season. When your shift ends, you descend to the yard again. Men gather around fires, warming hands, gnawing on bread baked from grain shipped from the south. It is coarse, heavy, with a taste of ash. On better days there might be a sliver of cheese or dried meat, but more often there is only bread and watered wine. A few lucky soldiers chew dates or figs sent from far-off lands, treasures that vanish in a bite. You think of the food of Rome, olive oil, fresh fruit, soft loaves, and the thought is almost a dream. Afternoon brings drill. You march in formation, shield on your arm, sweat soaking your tunic despite the chill. The centurion's voice drives you forward, each order sharp, relentless. Shields raise, swords slash, spears thrust, again and again, until your muscles ache, until thought itself is worn down. This too is survival. Habit carved into the body so deeply it will rise, even when fear tries to paralyze you. As the sun fades, the barracks come alive with sound. Dice clatter across wooden boards. Coins change hands. Some men carve small figures from bone. Others write letters on thin wooden tablets, words scratched with stylus points. In the corner, two men sing quietly in a tongue that isn't yours, a song of home. Smoke thickens. Cloaks are pulled tighter. Laughter rises and falls. For a moment the wall feels less like a prison, more like a place where life persists despite the cold. But outside, the frontier remains. Darkness creeps across the land, mist curling over the moors. In the watchtowers, torches flare, throwing long shadows against the stone. Somewhere in the night, a cry echoes, sharp and distant. Men stiffen, listening, waiting. The centurion's command breaks the silence, and guards take their positions. It may be nothing. It may be everything. On the wall, you never know. And so the first day ends, as countless have before, and countless will after. The empire stretches far behind you, but here on this line of stone you are at its very edge. The frontier is both your duty and your cage. And tonight, like every night, you lie down with your sword beside you, waiting for sleep that may or may not come. Night watch was the hardest duty on Hadrian's wall. Every mile a small stone fortlet. The mile castle stood with gates piercing the wall, and between them two towers rose, built to hold a pair of guards through the long hours of darkness. Soldiers rotated in shifts, 2 or 3 hours at a time, climbing narrow steps to take their place in the blackness. Wooden tablets from Vindolanda even mentioned tired sentries, proof that sleeplessness and fatigue haunted the wall. The cold, the rain, and the fear of sudden attack made these hours longer than any march. Now you take your place. The sun has fallen, the land beyond the wall swallowed by grey mist. You climb the stone stair, each step slick with damp. At the top, the world shrinks to torchlight and shadows. The flame sputters pushed by the wind, casting the wall in trembling gold. You set your shield beside you, spear upright, and settle into the rhythm of silence. The air bites. You draw your cloak tight, but the wool is thin, and the northern night cuts through it like a blade. Your breath clouds in front of you, and you hold it, listening. At first there is only wind. It rushes across the moors, carrying the smell of peat and wet earth. Then you hear the wall itself, stone groaning as it settles, water dripping from cracks. Every sound feels sharper here, amplified by stillness. You glance toward the tower opposite. 2 silhouettes move against the torch glow. Men you know only by shape. A signal horn rests beside them. If danger comes, one note will carry down the line, waking forts and barracks. You pray it stays silent. Hours drag. You shift your weight, stamping feet to keep them warm. Below, in the mile castle, you glimpse a faint glow where comrades huddle around embers. Laughter rises for a moment, carried by wind, then fades again. You envy them, even their smoky air and cramped walls. Up here, there is only the endless north. Rumors said that barbarians sometimes crept close to the wall, silent as ghosts, testing courage with their presence. You scan the darkness, eyes straining, shapes flicker, maybe rocks, maybe trees, or maybe men, crouching low. Your hand grips the spear tighter, but nothing moves, nothing comes, only mist curls, shifting, hiding, revealing. A bird shrieks suddenly, lifting from the ground with frantic wings. Your heart jumps, muscles tight. You wait, listening for footsteps, for cries, for the whistle of arrows. Silence again. The bird vanishes into the night. You release your breath. How many times has a sentry panicked like this, mistaking nature for an enemy? Records never tell, but your racing pulse knows. The horn calls softly once, just a change of watch. Another soldier climbs the steps, shoulders hunched, eyes half closed. His face is drawn, skin pale in torchlight. He nods, relief in his gaze. Your shift ends, but his begins. You descend, stone cold against your hands, knees stiff. In the mile castle below, men stir from straw beds to take their turn. Cloaks are pulled tight. Grumbles fill the air. Some mutter prayers, others curses. Duty leaves little choice. A pot of broth simmers weakly, onions and barley floating in greasy water. A soldier ladles a portion, steam curling into the air. You sip, warmth flooding tongue and throat, but hunger remains. It is not enough. Sleep will come, but never deeply. You lie back on straw, sword beside you, and listen as the new watch climbs the tower. Outside, rain begins, soft at first, then heavy. It drums against stone, seeps through cracks, splashes in puddles on the floor. Men turn in their sleep, coughing, shifting, trying to escape the damp. You pull your cloak over your head, but water creeps in anyway. At some point you wake again, not to a horn, not to shouting, just to silence that feels wrong. You sit up, straining ears. The rain has stopped. The wind too. The night is too still. You step outside, feet sinking into mud, and look up at the tower. The torch burns low, flickering. The guards are silhouettes again. You wonder what they hear, what they see. A moment later, the horn blasts, sharp, sudden, echoing across stone. Men leap to their feet, grabbing shields, swords, helmets. Your chest tightens, ears ring. Another note follows. Higher, urgent. It is the alarm. You rush to the stairs, climbing fast, legs heavy with fear. At the top, a guard points into the darkness. Shapes move beyond the ditch, figures running, shadows breaking from the mist. A cry rises, wild, inhuman. Spears rattle against shields as men gather. The centurion shouts orders, voice steady despite the chaos. Archers rush forward, arrows nocked, eyes narrow. Then, as sudden as it came, the danger dissolves. The figures vanish into the mist, leaving only silence and pounding hearts. Perhaps it was only a probing raid, meant to test vigilance. Perhaps nothing at all but shadows playing tricks. Records suggest that not every alarm ended in combat, but every alarm felt the same, like standing on the edge of life and death. The horn sounds again, this time low, steady. Stand down. Relief washes over you, though your body still trembles. Men mutter, some laugh nervously, others curse. Shields lower, arrows return to quivers. The night is quiet again. You descend once more, the adrenaline fading into exhaustion. Back in the barracks, straw clings to your cloak as you collapse onto your bed. Sleep is shallow, broken by dreams of mist and cries. You know tomorrow will bring the same cycle: watch, drill, hunger, fatigue, and again the night. The wall never rests, neither do you. And so the night passes, one of countless, each a thread in the long fabric of Rome's frontier. Some nights end in silence, others in skirmish, but all of them etch themselves into the memory of the men who keep watch on the edge of empire. Roman soldiers on Hadrian's wall ate because they had to, not because they wanted to. Archaeology from sites like Vindolanda has revealed carbonized grain, scraps of leather with food lists, bones of cattle, pigs and chickens, as well as fragments of writing that complain about shortages. The staples were wheat, barley, oats and rye, turned into coarse bread or porridge. Cheese was common, as was bacon or dried meat, but not consistently enough to fill a soldier's belly. Amphorae of olive oil, garum fish sauce and wine made their way north, carried by roads and ships, but these luxuries rarely reached ordinary soldiers in quantity. More often, men ate what was local: onions, leeks, cabbage, eggs, fish from rivers, and honey from nearby beekeepers. Vindolanda tablets even request coriander and pepper, proof that spices travelled across the empire to reach even this frozen frontier. But food supplies were uneven, and records show repeated shortages of grain, salt, and clothing. Eating here was survival, not comfort. You sit on a low stool, the wooden bowl heavy in your hands. Inside is pulse, the porridge of Rome made with barley cooked in water until it thickens into paste. Today it is plain, seasoned only with a pinch of salt. On better days, someone might stir in scraps of cheese or drizzle honey, but not tonight. You lift a spoonful, blow gently, and taste the bland, earthy bite. It fills the stomach, if not the heart. Around you, the barracks hum with voices. Men eat from bowls, tearing bread to dip in broth. The bread is coarse, baked in small round loaves from stone-ground flour. Grit crunches between your teeth, tiny fragments of stone from the mill, slowly wearing down enamel. You chew anyway. Hunger is stronger than complaint. A soldier near you boasts of the meat ration, waving a slice of pork fat crisped on the fire. The smell of smoke and grease drifts through the room. He shares a piece, and you bite down, savouring the salty rush. It clings to your lips, a reminder of what is rare. Not every day brings meat. When supplies falter, weeks can pass with only bread and porridge. Letters from Vindolanda speak of soldiers begging for grain or pleading for salt, a reminder that the empire's reach could falter even here. If you enjoy these stories, a like or a subscription means more than you think. It directly supports the channel and keeps these long journeys alive, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you listening from, and what time is it there right now? The centurion enters, carrying an amphora. He cracks the seal, and the sour tang of wine fills the air. The liquid is poured into cups, mixed with water, handed down the line. You sip, the sharpness burning your throat, but it warms you, loosening the tightness in your chest. Some men laugh, shoulders relaxing, dice clattering as a game begins. Others drink silently, eyes distant, as if each swallow pulls them closer to a home far south. Outside, traders gather by the gate. Women from local villages bring baskets of eggs, honey, and herbs. A few soldiers trade coins or scraps of metal for the chance at fresh food. A small jar of honey costs dearly, but its sweetness transforms porridge into a memory of feasts once known. You watch as one man hands over a week's pay for a handful of apples. He bites into one, juice running down his chin, and for a moment he looks like a child again. In the kitchen, smoke thickens as cooks stir cauldrons. Stew simmers, bones boiled until marrow seeps out, onions floating, barley thickening the broth. You stand nearby, the scent filling your lungs. Hunger sharpens as you wait, stomach tightening with every bubble and hiss. At last the ladle dips, and steaming liquid pours into your bowl. You eat quickly, scalding tongue, but it is worth it. The warmth spreads through your body, chasing away the damp chill. Sometimes food is celebration. A birthday tablet from Vindolanda invites a fellow soldier to come to my birthday party, to make the day more enjoyable with your presence. You imagine roasted meat, wine poured freely, laughter spilling into the night. Rare moments, but real. Even at the edge of empire, men sought joy in feasting. Yet more often, food is duty. Rations are measured, weighed, recorded. Bread is cut in even portions. Stew ladled with precision. Theft is punished harshly. Hunger breeds suspicion. A man with too much in his bowl draws sharp eyes. You remember once a soldier caught hiding a hunk of cheese under his cloak. He was beaten, forced to return it, humiliated before all. Food binds men together, but it can also drive them apart. As evening falls, you sit again by the brazier. The last crust of bread rests in your hand, dry and hard. You chew slowly, teeth aching, but you make it last. Around you, voices soften, bowls empty, cloaks pull tight. Some men joke, others whisper prayers. You think of markets far south, stalls heavy with olives, figs and soft white loaves. The contrast stings. Here the bread is dark, the porridge plain, the meat rare, yet you eat because hunger demands it, because tomorrow you will march again, drill again, stand guard again. The night deepens, smoke curling through the rafters. Someone hums a tune, low and steady, a song of home. You close your eyes, bowl empty in your lap, warmth fading from your stomach. Hunger lingers, but sleep presses harder. Tomorrow will bring the same coarse bread, barley porridge, stew of bones and onions. Tomorrow you will chew grit again, drink sour wine again, and endure. For on this wall, food is not pleasure, it is survival, and survival is all that matters. Barracks on Hadrian's wall were built for utility, not comfort. Excavations at forts like Vindolanda and Housesteads reveal long stone buildings divided into small rooms. Each room housed a contubernium, a squad of 8 men who slept, ate, and stored their equipment together. The space was narrow, barely wide enough for the straw mattresses laid side by side. Officers had separate quarters, larger and drier, but for the ordinary soldier there was little privacy. Roofs were made of tile or thatch, but rain and snow often forced their way in. The cold air of northern Britain seeped through stone walls. Wooden tablets from Vindolanda even include requests for warm socks, cloaks, and undergarments, proof that nights on the frontier were long battles against the chill. Archaeologists have reconstructed the shape of these rooms. A front chamber, used for storage of equipment and rations, and a rear chamber, just large enough for 8 men to sleep shoulder to shoulder. Floors were often simple beaten earth, though in some better forts wooden planks were laid. Yet even then, dampness crept in. Vindolanda yielded leather shoes, sandals patched again and again, and fragments of woolen textiles, tunics, cloaks, even scraps of blankets. All of them tell the same story. Fabric wore out quickly in the wet, and men asked endlessly for replacements. You lie down at the end of a long day, the straw prickling against your skin. The cloak you pull over yourself smells of smoke and sweat, wool rough against your face. Around you, 7 other men shift into place. Some mutter, others cough. Boots scrape against stone as they settle, weapons laid within reach. The room is dim, lit only by the fading glow of embers in a brazier that has nearly died. Shadows stretch across the walls, trembling with every flicker. Space is tight. A shoulder presses into yours, a knee jabs against your side. You roll, but there is no escape from bodies so close. The sound of breathing surrounds you, heavy, ragged, sometimes sharp with a snore. A fly buzzes in the dark, wings rattling against the air. Somewhere a rat scurries, claws scratching stone. You close your eyes, trying to drift, but the noises cling to you like the damp. The smell is stronger here than anywhere. Damp wool, unwashed bodies, leather oiled with animal fat. Smoke from the brazier lingers in the rafters, acrid and sharp, mixing with the must of mildew. It fills your lungs, thick and heavy, and you turn your face into the cloak, searching for clean air. You find little. Night routines vary. Some soldiers murmur quick prayers to their household gods, small figurines tucked into niches in the stone. Others polish boots or check straps on armor, unwilling to trust that tomorrow's inspection will go well otherwise. A few scribble short notes on thin tablets, stylus scratching softly. These fragments, found by archaeologists centuries later, preserve voices of men who once sat in beds like this, asking for socks, complaining of shortages, inviting comrades to dinner. Their words turn these barracks from ruins into living places. Outside, the night is never silent. A horn may sound, the crack of boots on stone, the bark of a dog. Sometimes the wind howls across the fort, rattling shutters, slipping through cracks to bite your skin. Sometimes rain drums against the roof, dripping through onto straw. You pull your cloak tighter, but dampness seeps in anyway, cold spreading like a slow hand across your body. Sleep comes in fragments. You drift, then wake again to coffin from the corner. One man hacks, a wet sound, spitting into the dark. Another shifts restlessly, dreaming perhaps of home, mumbling in a tongue you barely know. You roll again, straw rustling, hoping for silence, for stillness. And yet, amidst discomfort, there is also a strange comfort. You hear a soft laugh, low voices sharing stories. One man whispers of his family in Gaul, another of the vineyards of Spain. A third hums a tune, slow and steady, and for a moment the barracks feels less like a prison, more like a gathering of men holding the night at bay. The contrast with life today is striking. You, the listener, know beds with mattresses that cradle the body, blankets warm and clean, central heating to push away the cold. For a soldier here, comfort is a wool cloak, a little straw, and the warmth of a comrade's shoulder against the damp. Some nights are worse. When supplies run thin, hunger gnaws, keeping you awake, stomachs growl, men toss and turn, muttering curses. Other nights storms rage, lightning flashing through cracks in the shutters, thunder rolling across the hills. Rain pours so heavily that water pools on the floor, soaking straw, leaving you shivering in wet clothes until morning. And yet, you endure. You always endure. Each morning comes, the horn sounds, and you rise from the straw, eyes heavy, body sore. You pull on sandals, still damp from the night before, adjust your cloak and step into the grey light. The cycle begins again. Inspection, duty, drill, guard. But in those fragile moments before dawn, when the barracks lies quiet, you feel the strange closeness of those around you. 8 men sharing breath, warmth, fatigue. It is not comfort, but it is company. You know their movements, their sighs, their habits. You know who rolls left, who hums in sleep, who whispers prayers before closing his eyes. These small details weave you together, forming bonds no distance can cut. So you close your eyes once more, despite the damp, despite the smell, despite the ache. Outside, the frontier waits. Inside you drift in and out of sleep, guarded not by walls of stone but by the presence of men as weary as you. And that is how nights pass on Hadrian's wall. Restless, crowded, uncomfortable, yet endured. For here, even sleep is part of survival. Roman law once forbade soldiers from marrying, but the reality of life on Hadrian's wall ignored such commands. Archaeological evidence around forts like Vindolanda and Housesteads reveals sprawling civilian settlements, known as vici, clinging to the edges of military stone. Here lived women, children, traders and craftsmen, an unofficial but undeniable world of family. Inscriptions speak of wives and sons, while wooden tablets mention gifts of jewelry, fabric and shoes. The empire's ban on marriage mattered little in the cold north. Companionship was a necessity, not a luxury. You leave the barracks on a free evening, stepping into the muddy street of the vicus. Smoke curls from low-roofed houses, the smell of stew and burning peat carried by the wind. Dogs bark, children run past in ragged cloaks, and the chatter of women fills the air. Their voices mix languages, Latin, Celtic tongues, even Greek words picked up from traders. You feel, for a moment, as if the wall has cracked open, allowing life to spill through. In one house, a soldier's partner prepares wool on a spindle, twisting threads into strong yarn. Her hands move quickly, the motion steady and practiced. Beside her, a child plays with a carved wooden horse, its legs already worn smooth from use. These small details, preserved in fragments of toys and tools, prove that families lived and grew here, just outside the stone line of empire. You watch, struck by how ordinary it feels, how different from the barracks. Not every soldier found companionship in family. Some turned to women who offered their company for coin. Roman military sites across the empire contained such women, and the frontier was no exception. A soldier slips into a dim doorway, laughter following him. For many, the touch of another person was less about passion than about escape from the cold, the fear, the monotony of endless guard. Yet there were also genuine bonds, however unofficial. Relationships with local women were common. The Vindolander letters reveal requests for gifts, garments, jewelry, delicacies, tokens carried from far-off markets to women who waited by the wall. Some of these unions lasted years, creating children who grew up bilingual, half Roman, half Briton. Their lives blurred the line between occupier and native, between empire and frontier. Archaeology confirms these bonds in unexpected ways. Excavators have uncovered beads of glass and amber, bronze brooches, hairpins, even cosmetic tools in the soil around forts. These objects belonged not to soldiers but to the women who lived beside them. Animal bones too tell stories, pigs and chickens raised in civilian yards, feeding not only families but also hungry soldiers who came seeking a meal more tender than military rations. The frontier was harsher than Rome, but it was never empty of family life. You walk further, past the tavern where soldiers crowd around tables. Clay cups clatter, voices rise in song. A woman carries a tray, hair tied back, balancing bowls of barley stew. She smiles at a soldier, and he straightens, cheeks flushed. It is not difficult to see how attachments began here, among laughter and drink, where the loneliness of the walls softened under candlelight. Back in the barracks, talk often drifts to such matters. One man boasts of his lover in the vicus, another of gifts he plans to buy when pay arrives. Coins change hands quickly when women are involved, and men joke, tease, argue. Yet beneath the noise lies something quieter, the need to be remembered, to be seen as more than a soldier standing in the rain. The presence of families created its own rhythms. Traders followed, bringing goods, fresh vegetables, cloth, wine. Children grew up playing within earshot of horns, their games echoing against the fortress walls. Dogs ran between huts, guarding, barking, stealing scraps. Domestic objects, hairpins, beads, cooking pots, have been unearthed in numbers around Hadrian's wall, evidence of daily life that made the frontier more than a line of battle. Still, complications arose. Officers often frowned at unofficial families, reminding men of the law. Some relationships ended abruptly when a cohort was reassigned, leaving partners behind. Deserters sometimes vanished into the countryside with lovers, choosing uncertain freedom over rigid duty. Stories of such men spread quickly, whispered in barracks, debated at firesides. Were they cowards, or simply men who chose life over stone? For higher ranks, the picture was different. Centurions and commanders often granted more privilege, sometimes openly kept wives and children in villas near the forts. Their inscriptions proudly named sons and daughters, carved into stone that still survives. Discipline was for the common soldier. Leniency was for those with status. The wall reflected not just Rome's frontier, but Rome's inequalities. In quiet moments, you think of what drives you to companionship. The barracks are crowded, filled with men and noise, yet loneliness presses harder than the cold. A kind word, a hand resting on yours, laughter in the night. These small gifts matter more than any ration of bread. When you return to your straw bed, memories of warmth linger, carrying you through the long hours until dawn. Companionship on the wall was not always simple, nor always legal, but it was always human. Families grew in defiance of rules. Lovers met despite disapproval. Children played within sight of soldiers drilling. And soldiers, forbidden by decree to wed, still carved names of wives and children into stone, leaving proof that the empire's edge was not only a place of war, but also of love. You close your eyes at last, listening to the murmur of men in the barracks. Some speak of lovers, others of wives, others of brief encounters in taverns. Each voice carries the same need: connection. Beyond the wall lies wilderness, and within the wall lies discipline. Between them, in the shadow of forts and towers, lies companionship, messy, fragile, but essential. A Roman soldier's weapons were his life, and on Hadrian's wall that truth weighed heavier than the stones themselves. Archaeologists have found sword fragments, spearheads, shield fittings, even worn leather straps in the soil of northern forts. The damp climate of Britain corroded iron in weeks if left uncared for, so soldiers cleaned, oiled, and sharpened their gear constantly. Manuals and traditions demanded it. A blade dulled by neglect was a blade that could betray you in battle. For new recruits, much of service meant not fighting but maintaining, scrubbing, polishing, patching, making ready for the attack that might or might not come. You sit in the dim barracks after drill, gladius across your knees. The short sword glints faintly in the brazier light. You take a rag dipped in oil and rub along the edge, slow and steady. The metal smells sharp, the oil heavy with animal fat. Each stroke leaves a thin sheen, pushing back the rust that creeps in with every damp night. Around you, men do the same. The room filled with the sound of cloth against iron, the occasional hiss of a whetstone drawn across steel. Your spear, the pilum, leans nearby. Its iron shank is long, designed to bend on impact so it cannot be thrown back by an enemy. Still, it must be checked. The point sharp, the wooden shaft free of cracks. You run your fingers along it, searching for splinters, binding weak spots with fresh leather strips. The smell of resin clings where you've sealed the wood. Maintenance is ritual, repeated until the motions feel automatic. Shields demand even more work. The scutum is broad, curved, layered from wood and leather, rimmed with iron. In Britain's rain, the wood swells, the leather rots. You and your squadmates scrape away mud, tighten bindings, smear wax and oil over the surface. When cracks spread, you patch with fresh strips, hammer nails back into place. The shield is heavy enough already. A waterlogged one drags at the arm until it feels like stone. You think of the enemy waiting beyond the wall, painted warriors with long spears. Against them, your shield may be the only barrier between life and death. Armor, too, demands care. The lorica segmentata, iron strips fastened with leather ties, clanks when you unbuckle it. Each strip must be checked, each rivet tight. Rust blooms overnight if left unwiped. You rub oil across the metal until it gleams, then hang it to dry. In the corner, another soldier mends his mail shirt, linking tiny rings with a bent tool. His fingers are raw, but he works steadily. A gap in the armor invites an arrow. Archaeologists at Vindolanda have uncovered broken buckles, corroded rings, and scraps of leather harnesses, mute reminders of endless repairs. The younger recruits grumble. They would rather train, rather gamble, rather sleep. Yet centurions enforce discipline. A soldier whose gear is neglected is flogged, sometimes worse. Vegetius, the Roman military writer, warns that rust is the enemy of iron, and in the north that warning feels like prophecy. Everyone remembers the story of the man whose spear cracked in drill, blamed not on bad luck but on poor care. He spent days on punishment duty, hauling stones for repairs. Lesson learned: weapons demand respect. In quieter hours, the barracks becomes a workshop. Men carve new handles for knives, stitch leather scabbards, hammer out dents in helmets. Sparks fly from the blacksmith's forge nearby, glowing orange in the dark. The hammer strikes rhythmically, shaping iron, sharpening edges. Apprentices pump the bellows, sweat streaking their faces despite the cold night. You watch, entranced by the transformation, raw metal into tool, dull blade into weapon. Auxiliary soldiers, Those drawn from provinces far from Rome sometimes carried different gear. Archers from Syria maintained bows of wood and horn, carefully unstringing them in damp weather. Cavalry troopers tended to saddles and bridles, oiling leather until it shone. Their weapons, too, needed constant care: long spears, curved blades, horse armor patched with rivets. The mix of languages in the workshop was as varied as the tools: Gauls swearing, Syrians humming, Britons muttering. Yet all did the same work: fight the damp, fight decay, prepare for battle. The work is endless, yet strangely grounding. Each time you polish the gladius, you imagine the battles it may see, the defense it may give. Each time you check the spear's point, you remind yourself that readiness is survival. The monotony hides urgency. The routine conceals dread. Sometimes maintenance feels almost ceremonial. Men gather in small groups, comparing the gleam of blades, the straightness of shafts. Pride grows from care. A soldier with a shining sword is seen as reliable, disciplined. One with rusted gear is mocked, distrusted. The wall may stand as Rome's barrier, but a soldier's edge is his own. And yet, no matter how careful, the northern climate always wins in the end. Rust creeps back, leather stretches, wood splits. You fight a constant battle, one never truly won. Perhaps that is the metaphor of the wall itself. Stone against mist, order against wilderness, always holding, never ending. As evening deepens, you set your weapons aside, ready for tomorrow. Your hands smell of oil, your tunic stained. You rub palms against straw, wiping away grease, but the scent lingers. It will follow you into sleep, into dreams of battle. Around you, men store their gear, tucking swords beneath cloaks, spears against walls, shields stacked by the door, each item in its place, each item a reminder of the duty that binds you. The brazier dims. Someone yawns, stretching sore arms. Another soldier hums quietly, a tune from his homeland. The clang of hammering fades as the blacksmith closes shop. Night settles over the fort, heavy and damp. You lie back, body aching, mind restless. Tomorrow will bring inspection, drill, perhaps alarm, and when it does, your sword will be sharp, your shield ready, your armor firm. Because here on Hadrian's Wall, survival is sharpened every night. Life on the wall was often routine: patrols, drills, endless maintenance. But sometimes the silence cracked. The history of Hadrian's Wall records raids and skirmishes, sudden and sharp. Archaeology has revealed burned layers in certain forts, arrowheads buried in the soil, and traces of collapsed walls that hint at violence. In the year 180, tribes from beyond the wall launched a great assault, pushing deep into Roman Britain. Even before and after that year, smaller raids were common, testing Rome's patience, probing its defences. Soldiers knew attack could come any night. You stand on the parapet as dusk falls. The sky burns orange, sinking into grey. The moors stretch northward, empty but for drifting mist. You shift your spear, trying to shake off the weight of another long day. Somewhere a horn sounds, long and low, echoing across stone. It is not alarm, only signal. Still, the note lingers in your chest. Darkness spreads. Torches flare along the wall, their flames bending in the wind. You peer into the night, eyes straining. For hours nothing stirs. Then, faint at first, you hear it, a cry, sharp and wild, carried on the wind. Another follows, closer. Shapes move in the mist. Figures running, leaping the ditch, painted bodies glistening in torchlight. The horn blasts again, this time sharp and urgent. Alarm. Men rush from barracks, shields on arms, helmets barely strapped. Centurions bark orders, voices cutting through chaos. Archers scramble to towers, pulling arrows from quivers. The skirmish has begun. You grip your shield, heart pounding. The enemy surges from the dark, spears raised, voices howling. They hurl stones, javelins, flaming torches. One torch arcs high, landing against the palisade near the gate. Fire flares, smoke rising. Soldiers douse it with buckets, shouting curses. The system of signals comes alive. Watchtowers further down the line answer with horns, their echoes weaving across the night. On distant hills, beacon fires flare, orange dots piercing the dark, racing the news of attack along the wall. It feels like a chain of heartbeat, each flame passing urgency to the next fort. You realize that even if the enemy melts away, the alarm will travel for miles, stirring garrisons you cannot see. Your centurion signals. Arrows fly from the wall, hissing into the night. Some find targets. Shapes stumble, cries pierce the air, but more warriors press forward, climbing the ditch, hammering against the wall with clubs and axes. The impact reverberates through stone. You brace your spear, leaning into it, as if your weight alone can hold the empire steady. The clash is not a grand battle, not lines of legions in open field. It is confusion, shouts, fire, steel striking wood. You hear men cry out, some wounded, some furious. A spear clatters against the wall, splintering. An arrow whips past your head, close enough that you feel the air shift. For an instant you wonder if the wall itself might fail, if stone could crumble under chaos. A comrade beside you raises his pylon. He hurls it down, the heavy iron shank whistling through the air. It strikes, bending on impact, pinning a shield useless. The warrior screams, retreats, vanishes into mist. Another rushes forward. The rhythm of attack is relentless, wild against Rome's order. Below, the gate shakes as a small band pounds against it with makeshift rams. The wood holds, iron hinges groaning, guards pushing back from within. Buckets of water and sand are hauled, ready to smother fire. Somewhere behind you, the medic readies his kit. Bandages, hooks, vinegar, everyone has a role. Rehearsed again and again, now real. Then, as sudden as it came, the danger dissolves. The figures vanish into the mist, leaving only silence and pounding hearts. Perhaps it was only a probing raid, meant to test vigilance. Perhaps nothing at all but shadows playing tricks. Records suggest that not every alarm ended in combat, but every alarm felt the same, like standing on the edge of life and death. When the horn finally signals stand down, you collapse against the wall, muscles trembling. Around you, men curse softly, some laugh in relief, others slump with exhaustion. A few bodies lie below, shapes stilled, torches casting long shadows across them. You see blood shining faintly, black in the dim light. At dawn, the aftermath is counted. The dead are dragged from the ditch, Roman and barbarian alike. The surgeon tends wounds, pulling arrows from flesh, sewing gashes, pressing cloth against blood. The stench of iron fills the barracks, sharp and bitter. One man is carried out, face pale, eyes closed. A pyre will burn for him tonight. Another, bandaged, whispers that he heard his attacker laugh before vanishing. Centurions walk the line, voices clipped. Equipment is checked. Punishments promised for men caught unready. The wall itself bears scars, scorch marks from torches, chips where axes struck. Stones must be reset, gates reinforced, watch doubled. Repair is as much a part of battle as fighting. And through it all you feel exhaustion heavier than armor. Your hands ache, blisters roar from gripping wood and iron. Yet you know this was only the first taste. Records hint at raids repeating, season after season a constant drip of violence. Unlike a grand campaign with banners and glory, frontier war is attrition, small cuts that never heal. Still, you see something in the faces of comrades, in laughter that comes too quickly, in curses spat at the mist, in shoulders squared despite fatigue. You realize survival is not only sharpened blades, but shared defiance. For if the tribes fight with wild cries, you fight with discipline, order, routine. It is not glamour, but it holds the line. As night falls again, torches flare. You climb the parapet once more, the same mist stretching before you. Fear lingers, but duty steadies. You grip your spear, watch the dark and wait. because on the northern frontier, attack is never final. It always comes again. History records that Hadrian's Wall was not simply a line of stone but a frontier under constant pressure. Archaeological excavations at forts like Vindolanda and Karaberg have revealed layers of ash and charred timber, proof of fires that tore through barracks and outbuildings. Arrowheads and spear tips embedded in soil show that violence reached these stones. For the soldiers, a second attack was always worse than the first. Fear after one raid never vanished. It waited in the chest heavy until horns or torches brought it back to life. The alarm comes before dawn. You wake to shouting, the scrape of boots and the clash of iron. Smoke already curls through the barracks, stinging eyes. Outside, horns wail, long, high, urgent. It is the same sound you heard during the last raid, yet sharper now, more dreadful, because you know what it means. You grab your shield, snatch up spear and sword, and rush into the yard. The air smells of fire before you even reach the wall. Men run in every direction, some buckling helmets, others dragging water buckets, some still half asleep. Centurions bark orders, voices cutting through panic. The night sky glows faintly red. On the parapet, the scene spreads before you. Warriors surge from the mist, torches raised, cries piercing the air. Their voices are wild, rhythmic, like chants meant to terrify. Arrows streak upward, hissing past, some striking shields with hollow thuds. One man screams as a shaft drives into his leg. He collapses, dragged away by a comrade. This attack is fiercer. Fire rains against the gate. Bundles of burning brush hurled into the ditch. Flames lick up the wooden palisades built around the fort's outer edge. Smoke billows, choking, stinging your throat. Sparks leap onto cloaks and shields, burning holes before you can slap them out. The taste of ash coats your tongue. Signals blaze. In the nearest tower, soldiers light the beacon, a great torch that throws flame high into the dark. To the east, another fire answers, then another. Soon the hills glimmer with orange dots, each carrying the message attack. Horns echo, overlapping in layers, rolling along the wall like waves. Reinforcements will come, but not yet. For now, only your cohort stands between the enemy and the empire. Your centurion calls. Archers rush to towers, loosing volleys into the mass below. Some warriors fall, cries sharp, but others climb. Axes hacking into the wooden ditch defences. A comrade beside you hurls his pylon. It whistles, strikes, bends as designed, ripping through a shield. The enemy staggers, vanishes into smoke. You shout, a raw sound, more to steady yourself than to frighten them. The gate shakes. A group pounds with logs, using them as rams. Iron hinges groan. Guards brace it from within. Shoulders straining. Faces red. Buckets of water splash against sparks. But fire still flares, smoke choking the passage. You press against the wall, spear braced, heart hammering so hard you feel it in your throat. Then the cavalry moves. The gate cracks open, just wide enough. Auxiliary riders surge out, cloaks flying, horses thundering into mist. Spears lower, hooves crash against mud. The clash erupts beyond sight. Metal on flesh, cries of men and animals. For a moment hope surges. The horsemen drive wedges through the raiders, scattering them. You glimpse painted bodies fall beneath flashing hooves. But the victory is partial. Raiders spread wide, attacking other points. One climbs almost to the parapet, eyes wild, teeth bared. You thrust down with your spear, wood jarring against bone. He falls, vanishing below, but his scream lingers. Your hands tremble. Around you, men grunt, curse, shout. The night becomes chaos. Fire roaring, iron clashing, horns wailing, cries of the wounded cutting through it all. At last, the momentum falters. Warriors retreat, vanishing into mist as suddenly as they appeared. Cavalry pursues a short distance, then pulls back, wary of traps. The horn sounds low, steady. Stand down. Relief floods through you, leaving exhaustion heavier than armor. The aftermath is cruel. Outbuildings smolder, roofs collapsed, barracks blackened, soldiers cough in smoke, eyes red, hair singed, dead are laid in rows, cloaks over faces. One was your friend. You recognize his sandals, worn smooth from months of marches. You kneel, touch the edge of his shield, dented and scorched. He will not rise again. Repairs begin at once. Stones reset, char scraped away, timbers hauled for rebuilding. Centurions walk the line, inspecting gear, barking at men too slow. Punishments are promised for those caught unready. Discipline is Rome's weapon, as sharp as any sword. Yet even officers look drawn, shadows under their eyes. Everyone knows the enemy will come again. At dusk, the funeral pyres are lit. Smoke rises, thicker and darker than the morning's. The smell of resin and burning flesh mixes. Heavy, unforgettable, men stand silent, shields grounded, watching flames consume comrades. Some whisper prayers, others only bow heads. The crackle of fire fills the night. Later you lie in the barracks, smoke still in your nose. Sleep is broken by dreams of fire, painted faces, the crash of gates. Every creak in the night makes your hand grasp the sword at your side. The wall has endured another test, but the strain runs deep. You know in your bones, this is not the last time. And so the rhythm continues. Alarm, battle, repair, grief, and uneasy rest. On Hadrian's wall, survival is never final. Each raid leaves scars on stone and soul alike. The wall was meant to be Rome's strength, but it was also Rome's weakness. It needed supplies, grain, salt, oil, wine, meat, and those supplies had to travel hundreds of kilometers. Roads carried wagons from the south. Rivers bore boats heavy with amphorae, but storms, raids, or corruption could break the chain. The Vindolanda letters reveal soldiers pleading for food, requests for grain, salt, and even basic clothing. Archaeology confirms it. Charred grains in abandoned ovens, bones gnawed to splinters, amphorae smashed and empty. Hunger haunted the frontier as much as raiders. You sit in the barracks, bowl empty. Dinner was thin stew, little more than onions in hot water. Bread was rationed small, hard as stone. Men muttered as they chewed, voices sharp with resentment. Some joked bitterly, others only cursed. The brazier's smoke clung to the room, and the smell of hunger was everywhere, an absence sharper than any presence. Rations had been cut for weeks. The supply convoy delayed again, rumours of a storm wrecking boats off the coast. Grain wagons had not arrived. Salt was gone, meat spoiled. Soldiers shared whispers. Someone saw the centurion hoarding wine, another saw officers with fuller plates. Jealousy flickered, dangerous as fire in straw. In the vicus, traders raised prices. A loaf of bread cost days of pay. A jar of honey, once luxury, now impossible. Children cried in doorways while women haggled fiercely, clinging to scraps of grain. Soldiers tried to barter cloaks, sandals, even tools for food. Some succeeded, others returned empty-handed. Hunger did not care for rank or duty. Night brought little relief. Stomachs growled in the barracks, a chorus of need. Men shifted restlessly. Sleep broken by dreams of feasts, grapes, figs, roasted meat, soft bread with olive oil. Waking to porridge of barley water felt like mockery. A soldier muttered that Rome had forgotten them, that the empire fed its heart and starved its hands. His words earned glares from officers but nods from comrades. The logistics of the frontier were fragile. Grain came in sacks hauled on ox-drawn carts, rolling slowly along Roman roads. Salt pork and dried fish travelled in barrels sealed with pitch. Olive oil and wine came in tall amphorae, each marked with the seal of its producer. Archaeologists have found these amphorae fragments all along the frontier, proof of the global web that reached even to this cold edge. But one broken wagon wheel, one swollen river, one ambush by raiders, and the chain broke. You remember the Vindelander tablet that spoke simply, "Send more socks, send more undergarments, we have none." Food was the same. Men wrote because they lacked. The frontier gnawed at them, through cold and through hunger alike, and the damp climate made everything worse. Grain spoiled if left too long in wet stores, salted meat rotted in cracked barrels, bread moulded in days. Hunger grew not only from absence but from decay. One evening the horn called, not for alarm but for distribution. The quartermaster opened stores, counted each loaf, each sack, each amphora. Portions were smaller than ever. You received your ration no larger than your fist, and walked away heavy with frustration. Some men argued openly, fists clenched, until officers intervened. Hunger stripped away discipline faster than battle ever could. Theft became common. One soldier was caught slipping extra grain into his cloak. He was beaten publicly, forced to return the sack. Shame as heavy as bruises. Another was accused of trading military nails to villagers for cheese. Punishment was swift. Lashes, humiliation, loss of pay. Hunger turned comrades into rivals, suspicion into constant shadow. The worst came when the stew pots were nearly empty. Bones boiled so long they crumbled. Broth was grey, tasteless. Men chewed leather straps, softened in water, to trick their stomachs. Dice games no longer ended with coin but with wagers of bread crusts. Laughter rang hollow, edged with desperation. Outside, the wall stood as always, silent, immense, stone against sky. But you knew its strength was fragile. A hungry soldier is a weaker soldier. Guard duty became harder, eyes heavy, limbs slow, patrols dragged, tempers flared, even the blacksmith's hammer slowed, his arms weary. Hunger was as much an enemy as painted warriors. Then came the storm. Rain lashed for days, turning roads to mud, supply wagons stuck, wheels sunk deep, horses strained, slipping, neighing in panic. The convoy stalled miles away, and word spread fast. Hope faded, hunger deepened. In the barracks, men whispered of desertion. "Better to take my chance with the tribes," one muttered. Another spoke of raiding the officers' stores. Tension tightened like a drawn bow. You lay awake, listening to mutters, knowing any spark could ignite. At last, relief came. A column of wagons creaked into the fort, wheels coated with mud, drivers shouting with exhaustion. Grain sacks were unloaded, amphorae rolled, barrels of salted pork stacked high. Soldiers cheered, some weeping openly. The cook fires roared that night, pots brimming with thick stew. The smell of meat and herbs filled the fort, a fragrance more powerful than any hymn. You ate until your belly ached, stew dripping from beard, bread soft and plentiful. Laughter shook the barracks, dice rolled for coin again. Songs rose. For a moment the wall felt less like exile, but the memory of hunger lingered, burned deep. You knew it would return, as sure as winter winds. And so you learned that life on the wall was not only about battle, it was about waiting for wagons, praying for weather, enduring the ache of hunger until Rome remembered you again. For a modern listener, it might feel like walking into a store and finding shelves bare day after day, week after week, except here no other shop existed. Only the Empire's wagons, creaking northward, separating survival from despair. Winter on Hadrian's wall was not simply a season, it was an enemy. The Romans came from across the empire, Spain, Gaul, Syria, Africa, and none of them were ready for the winds that whipped across the northern moors. Snow, rain, and endless damp turned every duty into battle. The Vindelander tablets revealed desperate requests. Send more socks, send more sandals, send more undergarments. Archaeology has confirmed these needs. Scraps of woolen tunics, heavy cloaks, hobnailed boots patched again and again. Cold was the constant companion, and soldiers fought it as fiercely as they fought raiders. The first snow falls early. You wake to see the barracks roof glittering white, frost tracing the stones, breath clouds hang in the air, each one lingering like smoke. The straw beneath you is stiff, damp with frost that has crept in overnight. You pull your cloak tighter, wool rough against your face, but the cold still presses into your bones. Around you, men shiver, mutter curses, stamp their feet to drive warmth into numb toes. Guard duty is worst. You climb the wall, hands stiff on the frozen stone. The wind cuts your face, a knife sharper than any blade. Your nose runs, your lips crack, your ears burn red. Snow blows sideways, carried in whirling gusts. The land beyond the wall vanishes in white haze. Your spear shakes in your grip, not from fear but from trembling fingers. The hours stretch long. You stamp your feet, pace along the parapet. Anything to keep blood moving. A comrade laughs bitterly, saying this cold is harsher than any barbarian. You nod, teeth chattering, unable to answer. Your mind drifts to warm lands far south. Vineyards of Italy, markets of Gaul, sunlit coasts of Africa. Compared to those, this feels like punishment, exile in ice. When the watch ends, you stumble down, body stiff. In the barracks, the brazier smoulders, but the heat barely reaches beyond its glow. Men crowd close, hands stretched toward the flames, smoke thick in the room. The air stings your eyes, but no one moves away. Better smoke than cold. A soldier coughs, deep and wet, spitting into the corner. The sound is common now, lungs filled with damp colds that never heal. The quartermaster distributes winter gear, what little there is. Pairs of socks, rough woolen, pass from hand to hand. Some men receive nothing, supplies never match need. Sandals with iron hobnails are patched with scraps of leather, barely holding together. Cloaks are worn thin, edges fraying. Officers fare better, their cloaks thicker, their sandals newer. The inequality stings, but you say nothing. The centurion's eyes are sharp, punishment swift. Storms rage for days. Wind howls across the fort, tearing at shutters, rattling doors. Snow piles against walls, drifts waist deep. Barracks roofs leak, water dripping onto straw. Men curl under cloaks, huddled together for warmth, but the cold seeps through. Fires smoke endlessly, leaving soot on skin, but still the damp wins. You wake with frost on your beard, toes numb, fingers stiff. Some men cannot rise at all, joints swollen, fevers burning. The medic works constantly, binding chests, mixing herbs, praying over those who will not last the winter. Patrols in snow are brutal. You march knee-deep through drifts, shields heavy with ice, spears slick with frost. The ditch before the wall freezes, its surface glimmering in weak sunlight. You slip, fall, curse, rise again. Horses struggle too, their hooves clattering on frozen ground, breath steaming. The silence of snow is eerie, muffling every sound until only crunching boots remain. You feel exposed, small against the endless white. The enemy does not vanish in winter. Raids still come, sometimes more dangerous in the cover of storms. Painted warriors know the land, moving silent through forests, striking when soldiers are weakest. Arrows fly even in blizzards, sudden and sharp. Fire burns just as hot in snow, torches thrown against wooden stores. Winter does not protect you, it betrays you. At night, hunger grows sharper. Supplies spoil faster in damp stores. Grain molds, meat rots, barrels crack in freezing air. Stew is thin, bread harder than stone. Men gnaw crusts with cracked teeth, muttering curses. Some trade coins for eggs or onions from villagers, paying dearly. Others chew leather straps again, softening them in broth. Hunger and cold weave together, gnawing body and spirit alike. In the vicus, civilians suffer too. Children cry, faces red with chill, cloaks too small to cover them. Women gather peat, burning it for heat, smoke rising low across huts. Traders vanish in winter storms, their stalls empty, streets silent. Even laughter feels muted, smothered by snow. And still, duty never stops. Inspections continue. Drills are called even in blizzards. The centurion shouts above the wind, voice harsh, eyes cold. You obey, because disobedience brings lash. Because Rome demands order. You raise shield, thrust spear, march steps, though every limb aches, every breath freezes. Routine is survival. Movement keeps blood warm. Some nights despair presses heavier than blankets. Men whisper of desertion, of fleeing south, of leaving the wall to its fate. Others dream aloud of spring, of green fields, of warmth. You listen in silence, staring at the rafters, smoke curling above. Hope feels distant, yet necessary. Without it, the cold would win. When spring finally comes, snow melts into rivers, mud sucking at boots. The wall emerges from drifts, scarred but standing. Men stagger into sunlight, coughing, blinking, bodies thin from hunger, faces pale from months indoors. Some comrades are missing, their straw beds empty, their names whispered over funeral fires. Winter always takes its toll. And yet, the wall still stands, and so do you. Exhausted, battered, but alive. You know another winter will come, and another after that. But survival here is measured not in comfort, not in victories, but in endurance. And endure you must, for the empire demands it. A soldier's life on Hadrian's wall was not only battle and hunger, it was routine, endless and unyielding. Rome's strength did not rest in stone alone, but in discipline drilled into every man. The empire demanded order, and the frontier demanded it twice as much. Vigesius would later write, "Victory comes from training, not from chance." On the wall you felt those words in your bones every day. The horn wakes you before dawn. The air is cold, damp, clinging to straw and cloak. You rise stiffly, joints aching, but there is no time to linger. Weapons must be checked, armor straps and sandals tied. The centurion waits in the yard, eyes sharp even in grey light. His voice cuts through the morning. Form ranks. You hurry into line with your contubernum. 8 men shoulder to shoulder, shields in left hands, spears upright. The yard fills with the clatter of armor, the shuffle of sandals on stone. Breath clouds rise, merging into one mist. The centurion inspects, gaze stopping on every dent, every stain. One soldier's belt is loose. He is cuffed hard, ordered to fix it at once. Discipline allows no excuses. Drill begins with the march. You step in rhythm, shields held high, sandals striking in unison. Sinister, dexter, left, right, the chant of Rome. Around the yard you go, then out through the gate, onto the road built by legionaries years before. The march stretches miles, pace steady, never slowing. Packs weigh heavy on shoulders, 40 pounds of gear digging into flesh. Stones grind underfoot, nails in sandals sparking now and then. Sweat stings eyes, though the morning air is cold. After the march, weapons drill. Wooden swords, heavier than the real gladius, are thrust into straw dummies. You strike again and again, arms burning, back aching. The centurion shouts for harder blows. The enemy will not wait for gentle taps. You thrust until shoulders scream, until calluses tear open, blood mixes with sweat, dripping onto earth. Then shields heavy scooter raised, held for minutes, muscles trembling, before the order comes to bash forward. Strike in rhythm. The sound of wood on wood echoes across the fort. Formations follow. Testudo, the famous tortoise, shields raised above and all around, a shell of wood and iron. You march hunched inside, breath hot and stale, vision narrow, then wedge formation, pushing forward in a point, crushing enemies aside, each step rehearsed, each movement corrected. Officers pace, shouting, punishing mistakes. Order is survival, and survival means repetition. Archers train apart, bows straining, arrows thudding into targets, cavalry drills outside, horses pounding, riders leaning with spears lowered. Dust rises, shouts carry, the whole fort vibrating with effort. Every skill, every motion, repeated until instinct replaces thought. But drill is not only combat, work is discipline too. You dig ditches, deepen moats, repair roads. Stones are hauled, mud shoveled, timber cut. The wall is never finished, always needing hands. Officers say the labor strengthens muscles and sharpens will. To you it feels like endless exhaustion. Still you work because refusal means punishment, and punishment is worse than fatigue. And punishments are harsh. The lash is common, leather striking skin, welts raised. A soldier caught asleep on watch may be flogged or worse. Food rations can be cut, pay withheld. Stories circulate of decimation, the ancient penalty of killing 1 in 10 men for cowardice or mutiny. Whether true or not here, the fear alone keeps men obedient. The barracks whispers with tales of men broken by punishment, their names warnings to others. You remember the soldier flogged for neglecting his post, lashes cutting skin, blood soaking tunic, another stripped of rations for losing his temper in ranks. Discipline is Rome's spine, and fear its marrow. Even the thought of slipping, of disobeying, chills you more than the northern wind. At midday rations are given, bread, porridge, sometimes meat. You eat quickly, sitting on stone steps, sweat cooling on your skin. Around you men groan, rubbing shoulders, stretching stiff legs. Some joke, others curse quietly, but rest is brief. Soon the horn calls again. Afternoon drills repeat the morning. Marches, weapon strikes, shield walls, the centurion orders formations, testudo, wedge, line. You practice over and over, stepping as one, shields locking, spears thrusting in rhythm. The sound is thunderous, a heartbeat of the legion. It is tiring, but there is pride too. In formation you feel less a man, more a piece of Rome itself, a living wall of flesh and iron. Even when the weather turns foul, rain lashing, mud sucking at boots, drill continues. Cloaks cling wet, water streams from helmets. But the orders do not stop. The enemy will not wait for sun. The centurion reminds. And so you march in storms, fight straw dummies in downpour, shields slipping in hands. The misery is complete, but the rhythm endures. Evening brings inspection. Armor checked, weapons scrutinized, barracks examined for order, cloaks hung straight, sandals lined neatly, straw swept. Disorder earns harsh words, sometimes blows. The message is clear. Rome tolerates no weakness, not in battle, not in life. After inspection there may be brief leisure, dice rattling on wood, men laughing, others writing tablets to family or lovers. But even then, discipline lingers. Officers walk among you, eyes sharp, ears open, a careless word, a missed salute, and punishment follows. As darkness falls, you return to barracks, body aching, mind weary. Straw beds wait, cloaks scratch, smoke stings. Yet you feel a strange satisfaction, the drills, the marches, the punishments, all shaping you into something harder, not comfortable, not free, but strong in the way Rome demands. For on Hadrian's wall, the greatest enemy is not only the tribes beyond, it is weakness within, and discipline is the weapon Rome wields to defeat it. Beyond the wall stretched a world Rome never fully tamed. To the north lived tribes the Romans called barbarians, brigantes, Selgovae novante, later names like Picts. They moved across moors and forests, herding cattle, hunting, raiding. Their lands were wild, their loyalty uncertain. To the soldiers on the wall, these tribes were both threat and lifeline, enemies one day and traders the next. Archaeology proves it. Roman coins, brooches and pottery have been found in native settlements far beyond the frontier. Despite Rome's disdain, contact was constant. One morning, you stand by the gate as a small group approaches from the north. They come on foot, wrapped in cloaks of rough wool, faces painted with swirling blue dye. Their hair is long, braided, wild in the wind. They carry no weapons openly, only bundles slung on backs. The guards tense, hands on spears, but the centurion signals calm. The tribesmen stop before the gate, lay down their goods, animal skins, jars of honey, a bleating goat tugged on a rope. In exchange, Roman traders bring amphorae of wine, salt beads of coloured glass. The market is brief, tense, but real. You watch as coins pass, as hands touch, as words stumble across languages. Latin mixed with Celtic, gestures filling gaps. A tribesman grins as he tastes wine, red spilling down his beard. A soldier laughs, offering him bread. For a moment the wall feels less like division, more like bridge. Wool cloaks are prized. The native sagum, thick and heavy, far warmer than Roman issue, spreads quickly among the garrison. Soldiers barter eagerly, offering silver or knives in return. Archaeologists have found these cloaks preserved in damp soil, proof of trade. Likewise, Roman Samian ware, red pottery with glossy finish, appears in tribal villages hundreds of miles beyond the frontier. The exchange was real, practical, necessary. Yet, not all encounters are peaceful. Days later, patrol finds a farm south of the wall burned, animals stolen. The villagers wail, pointing north. Rumours spread fast. The same tribes who traded honey also raided cattle. Soldiers mutter curses, fists tight on spears. The centurion warns against rash acts, but mistrust deepens. Every gift feels suspect, every smile weighted. Even in peace, tension lingers. You hear stories in the barracks. A soldier falling for a local woman, her family divided between scorn and profit. Another soldier cheated in trade, paying silver for wool only to find it rotted. Others speak of ambushes disguised as barter, blades hidden under cloaks. Trust is fragile, always weighed against survival. Still, life mingles. In the vicus outside the fort, local families live beside soldiers' unofficial partners. Children with mixed features run through muddy streets, shouting in both tongues. Women sell bread, cheese, ale. Men offer hides and tools. At night, taverns fill with soldiers and tribesmen alike. Dice clattering, voices rising, ale spilling. The wall separates, yet in shadows it also connects. Sometimes the mingling turns bitter. One night in a tavern, a soldier boasts too loudly of Rome's power. A tribesman spits ale, answers in his own tongue, mocking. Shouts follow, fists fly, benches crash. By dawn both lie bruised, carried back to their homes. Officers frown, but punishment is light. After all, both sides still need each other tomorrow. Such quarrels never vanish, always simmer just beneath. Archaeology reveals the complexity. In native settlements, Roman brooches and glass beads lie beside handmade pottery. In forts, bones of cattle suggest herds driven from northern fields. Children born of Roman fathers and local mothers lived in Vichy, their lives bridging two worlds, not enemy, not ally, but something between. You remember standing guard at a meeting near the river, officers gathered with tribal leaders, cloaks bright with Roman dyes, talks heavy on native necks, words traded through interpreters, gifts exchanged, wine for wool, iron for cattle. For hours peace felt possible, but as night fell, torches flared, voices rose, arguments broke. The talks ended without blood, but also without trust. Night raids sharpen the divide. One evening, horns blast, shadows slipping near a mile castle, torches flung at stores, arrows whistle, shields rattle, men cry out. In the morning, footprints mark the mud, blood stains the grass, the enemy vanishes, but suspicion remains. Were they the same men who drank Roman wine last week? You will never know. In the barracks, debates flare. Some despise the tribes, calling them savages, unworthy of Rome's patience. Others shrug, saying they are no worse than farmers back home. One man boasts of a son born to a northern woman. Another warns him never to admit it to officers. Laughter follows, edged with envy. The line between enemy and family blurs in whispers. And yet, dependence grows. Without native cloaks, soldiers would freeze. Without honey, meals would taste of only salt and grain. Without cattle, bellies would stay empty. Rome brought its empire to the north, but it could not live here alone. The tribes were both its problem and its solution. For all the hatred, the mixing leaves marks. A soldier's brooch found in a northern grave, a woman's comb carved from Roman ivory, discovered in a tribal hut, evidence of lives intertwined, of people who crossed the wall in body or in heart. Historians cannot always say if these were spoils of raids or gifts of love, but both are true of the frontier. And so every encounter is layered. A smile hides suspicion, a trade masks rivalry, a child carries two bloodlines. The wall was Rome's frontier, but it was also a meeting ground. Enemy and ally, trader and raider, family and stranger, all passed here. For soldiers, every encounter carried risk. Every gift could hide a trap. Every laugh could mask a raid. And yet, without those encounters, the garrison might starve, might freeze, might collapse into isolation. You lie awake, thinking of the faces you saw at the gate, painted blue, smiling over wine. Were they the same who crept in the night with fire and blade? No record answers, only the memory of their eyes, bright in torchlight, unreadable. The frontier is never simple. It is not stone against wild, not Rome against barbarian. It is grey, shifting, uncertain. And on Hadrian's wall, you live in that uncertainty every day. Rain was the true enemy of the wall, not the painted warriors, not the hunger gnawing your belly, but the sky itself. In the north of Britain, storms came suddenly, violently, and mercilessly. Days of grey skies gave way to hours of downpour, wind screaming across the moors, water flooding every ditch, seeping into every stone. Archaeologists have found drains cut deep into forts, channels carved to guide water away, but even those clever systems failed when the heavens truly opened. The first drops come with little warning. You hear them tap against your helmet, soft at first, then harder, louder, until conversation vanishes beneath the roar. Cloaks soak through in minutes. Wool heavy, dripping into boots. The stone underfoot grows slick, moss shining, puddles spreading. The ditch before the wall fills like a river, water rushing fast, carrying sticks, mud, debris. Within hours the frontier is not stone against wild, but island against sea. Guard duty becomes misery. You climb the parapet, rain lashing your face, cloak whipping in wind. The horizon vanishes in grey. Mist swirls, merging with sheets of water. Your spear slides in your hand, fingers numb. Leather slick. A comrade curses, hair plastered to his forehead. Another laughs bitterly, shouting that Neptune himself must hate Rome. You cannot hear him clearly. Thunder drowns his words. Inside the fort, chaos grows. Barracks leak, roofs dripping, straw sodden. Men huddle close to braziers, smoke thick as fog. The fire smoulders, refusing to burn strong, damp logs hissing and spitting. Wet tunics cling to bodies, coughs echo through the room. The medic shakes his head. More fevers, more infections. Cold and damp breed sickness faster than blades. The storerooms suffer worst. The grain sacks mould, water dripping from beams, amphorae cracking cold, wine leaking onto stone floors, barrels swell and burst, salted meat ruined. Soldiers shovel spoiled food out, cursing, the smell sour and heavy. Supplies vanish, not to thieves, not to fire, but to water. Hunger returns, fed by storms. You march through mud, orders unyielding. Patrols do not stop for rain. Boots sink ankle deep, then knee deep, sucking at your steps. Roads built by legions turn to rivers. Stones slippery, wagons stuck. Horses strain, neighing, hooves splashing. A convoy halts, wheels sunk, oxen refusing to move. Soldiers push, muscles straining, mud coating skin. Still the cart does not budge. Hours pass. Nothing changes. Supplies are abandoned until weather clears. By then much will spoil. Lightning splits the sky. Blinding white. Thunder follows, shaking the fort, echoing in your chest. Rain hammers roofs. Doors rattle. Shutters tear loose. Water pours into ditches. Floods creeping across parade grounds. You wade knee-deep just to cross from barracks to gate. The centurion shouts orders, voice lost in wind. You see his cloak whip like a sail, his helmet gleam with rain, his face grim. In the vicus, suffering is worse. Huts of wood and clay collapse, walls soft in water. Families scramble to save belongings, carrying baskets high above floods. Children cry, animals bellow, smoke smears the sky from ruined hearths. Traders curse as goods float away, bread sodden, cloth ruined. Some beg the fort for shelter, others vanish into rain. For civilians, storms strike harder. They have no stone walls to hold. At night, rest is impossible. Rain drums endlessly on roof tiles, leaks dripping onto faces, straw squelches beneath you, stinking of mould. You shift, shiver, curse. Around you men groan, some coughing so hard it shakes the room. Sleep comes in fragments, broken by thunder, by drafts, by fear the roof will collapse. Morning brings no relief, only more grey, more water, more wind. The wall itself suffers. Stones loosen, mortar washed out, sections crumble, needing repair. Soldiers haul rocks in rain, arms aching, backs bent, mud sucks at boots, hands freeze on cold stone. Work goes on because Rome demands it, because weakness invites attack. But every man knows the truth. No spear cuts like water. No enemy is as patient as rain. One storm lasts 3 days. By the end, the fort is half drowned. Ditches overflow, bridges break, supplies gone. Men stagger, pale, lips blue, coughing blood. The medic works endlessly. Herbs boiling in smoky pots. Some survive, others fade. Funeral pyres smoke wet and bitter. Fire struggling against rain. Ash clings to your skin, refusing to wash away. And yet, storms pass. The sun breaks through at last. A weak light glinting on waterlogged fields. Birds sing again, timid but steady. Soldiers stagger outside, eyes blinking, shoulders slumped. You walk the wall, stones slick but standing. Beyond lies the moor, green again, quiet. For a moment the world feels calm, but you know the calm is false. Storms always return. Ditches will flood again. Roofs will leak. Grain will spoil. The north does not forgive, does not relent. Rome built stone to resist men, but stone cannot resist sky. On Hadrian's wall, you learn this truth again and again. The empire may command legions, but it cannot command the weather. At night, as you lie in damp straw, you think of home or of the homes you never had. In Italy, sun warms vineyards. In Syria, dry winds sweep desert. In Gaul, rain comes but never like this. Here the storms own you. You live at their mercy. You endure because there is no choice. And so the wall stands, not just against tribes, but against sky. Each storm carves at stone, at spirit, at Rome itself. You rise, you march, you rebuild, because discipline demands. But in the stillness after thunder, in the hush before the next rain, you know the truth. On this frontier it is not barbarians who test you most. It is the storm. Life on Hadrian's wall was hardship. But it was not only hardship. Even here, on Rome's farthest edge, men sought pleasure, routine, distraction. Without it, the endless cold, hunger, and fear would break them. Archaeology reveals the traces. Dice worn smooth from countless throws, fragments of gaming boards, combs carved with care, letters written in affectionate hands. Leisure was fragile, stolen between duties, but it existed, and it kept soldiers human. Evening begins with relief. The horn sounds dismissal, and men drift from the yard, shoulders sagging after drill. The barracks fills with voices, laughter bubbling after silence. Cloaks are shed, boots pulled off, the smell of damp leather rising. A fire roars in the brazier, warming hands, drying clothes. For the first time all day, duty loosens its grip. Dice clatter. A circle gathers around a board scratched into wood, tiny cubes tumbling. Wagers are made, a crust of bread, a sip of wine, a coin if luck runs hot. Shouts erupt at each roll. Cheers, groans, curses in half a dozen tongues. Gaulish laughter rings loud, Syrian voices mutter prayers. Britons recruited into auxilia slap their thighs in joy. Games turn men from soldiers into boys again. If only for an hour. Archaeologists have found these dice, carved from bone, discarded centuries ago, yet still marked with numbers. Others prefer tabula, a board game of counters and moves, strategy and patience. Pieces slide across the wood, hands tense, minds sharp. Officers sometimes join, cloaks draped loosely, smiles rare but real. Here rank fades a little, luck humbles all. Music drifts through smoke. A soldier plucks strings on a small lyre, another hums a tune learned far to the south. Voices join, uneven but heartfelt. The melody is foreign, but the rhythm universal. Some clap, some sway, some close eyes and imagine home. Music softens stone walls, carries men away from damp barracks into memory. Not all leisure stays inside. The fort has its bathhouse, stone walls echoing with steam, floors heated by hypocaust glow warm beneath bare feet. Soldiers shed armor, sink into pools, sighing as heat eases stiff muscles. Water splashes, laughter rises, soap of ash and oil scrubs away grime. Here rank dissolves, all are equal under steam. The bath is not luxury but necessity, a reminder of Rome's presence even in the cold north. Archaeologists uncovered these bathhouses, their tiled floors and drainage channels still visible, proof of comfort carved into wilderness. Letters bring another kind of relief. By lamplight, soldiers scratch wax tablets, words flowing to wives, brothers, parents. Some speak of longing, others of daily life, bread rations, the weather, small victories. One famous Vindelander letter is an invitation to a birthday party. On the third day before the Ides, "Sister, I give you a warm invitation." Even here on the frontier, birthdays mattered. You think of that letter as you write your own. Words simple, heart heavy. Whether it reaches home, you cannot know, but writing itself eases the ache. In the vicus, comfort takes rougher form. Taverns line muddy streets, doors open, lamps glowing. Inside, the air is thick with smoke. Ale sloshes in clay cups. Voices roar. Soldiers sit shoulder to shoulder with traders and locals, dice rattling, songs bawled. Fights break out as quickly as laughter, fists flying, tables overturned. By dawn, bruises are worn like medals, stories exaggerated, friendships or grudges cemented. Archaeology shows shards of cups, graffiti scratched into tavern walls, echoes of those nights. Women work in taverns too. Servers, companions, lovers. Some are locals, some follow the army from fort to fort. Officers turn blind eyes for the men need release. Children born of these unions run through the vicus, their lives woven into both worlds. Leisure is not only dice and drink, but flesh and family, however fragile. Festivals punctuate the year. Saturnalia brings candles, gifts, laughter. Soldiers wear caps of freedom. Officers serve men at tables, roles reversed for a day. Fires burn bright. Songs rise, wine flows until dawn. Even on the frontier, Rome's calendar is kept. The empire felt in ritual and joy. Archaeologists found figurines of gods and tokens from such feasts, proof that celebration crossed even the farthest boundary. Small comforts matter most. A comb of carved bone, smoothing tangled hair, a brooch polished until it gleams. A warm cloak, thicker than regulation. A shared loaf pulled fresh from oven, steam rising. Laughter over nothing. A hand on a shoulder. A joke whispered during watch. Survival may come from discipline, but life comes from these fragments. And sometimes leisure carries danger. Gambling debts spark fights, knives drawn in fury. Wine loosens tongues, words spoken against officers punished harshly come dawn. Taverns attract spies, raiders listening for weakness. A moment of comfort can end in ruin. Yet men risk it, because without risk there is no relief. You remember one night, dice rolling, laughter high when a storm battered walls outside. Rain lashed, wind howled, but inside, warmth glowed. A comrade sang a song from his homeland, voice trembling but strong. The room hushed, all listening, each man seeing in the melody his own home far away. Some wept quietly, heads bowed. When the song ended, silence lingered, heavier than thunder. Then laughter returned, louder, stronger, as if to drive sorrow away. That is what leisure was on the wall. Not escape, not comfort in the way of villas or gardens, but survival of spirit. Dice, song, drink, letters, women, baths. Small flames against vast darkness. They did not erase hardship, but they made it bearable. And without them no soldier could have stood the northern storms, the raids, the hunger. You lie down in barracks after such a night, belly warm with stew, head light with wine, ears echoing with laughter. Outside the wind still howls, the wall still looms, duty still waits. But for a moment you are simply a man, not only a soldier, and that moment is enough. The frontier could wound without battle. The enemy was not always painted warriors or raging storms. Often it was sickness, silent, creeping, merciless. Archaeology reveals as much surgical tools buried in forts, bones showing signs of infection, letters speaking of ailments. Illness was part of life on Hadrian's wall, and healing was both science and faith. You wake one morning with your chest tight, breath wheezing. The barracks is damp, straw wet beneath you, smoke from the brazier thick in the air. Around you men cough, deep, hacking, endless. The sound fills the room, louder than the horn. Winter has passed, but its grip lingers in lungs. Some men rise weak, shoulders hunched, faces pale. Others do not rise at all. The medic is summoned. He works in a small chamber near the baths. Shelves lined with jars and tools. Archaeologists have found them. Bronze scalpels, delicate tweezers, probes, needles. They gleam in lamplight, sharp and cold. Bowls hold ointments, mixtures of herbs and resins. The air smells of vinegar, honey, crushed leaves. You sit before him, tunic pulled aside. He listens, pressing ear to chest, frowning at the rasp of breath. He mixes herbs, fennel for lungs, garlic for strength, honey to soothe. You swallow the bitter drink, grimacing, but hope stirs. Others are not so lucky. On one bed lies a man with fever, sweat pouring, skin hot as fire. Another grips his stomach, moaning, struck by the belly sickness that spreads through water. Dysentery ravages quickly. Soldiers grow weak, lips cracked, eyes dull. The medic prescribes wine to cleanse, herbs to calm, but sometimes it is not enough. In latrines, filth spreads, flies swarm. Infection moves from man to man faster than orders. Parasites are constant companions. Fleas bite at night. Lice crawl in hair. Worms twist in bellies. Soldiers joke bitterly, scratching at skin until blood beads. Combs carved from bone, found in excavations, tell of constant battle against vermin. Hygiene helps, but cannot win. The damp climate breeds worse. Joints swell, knees ache, fingers stiff. Rheumatism gnaws at men still young, cold seeping deep. Coughs never vanish, lingering for months. Some soldiers march with fevers, teeth clenched, knowing refusal brings punishment harsher than illness. On the wall, sickness is endured, not pitied. The medic does what he can. He cleans wounds with wine, stitches with gut thread, bandages with wool. Archaeologists uncovered jars once holding salves of resin and oil. Some recipes soothe, others fail. The line between cure and harm is thin. You recall one soldier treated for a deep cut. Flesh sewn, herbs applied. He lived, scarred. Another, with a crushed leg, was less fortunate. The medic cut the limb, saw rasping through bone. The man screamed, then stilled forever. His grave lies beyond the fort, stone marked with his name. Superstition mixes with science. Amulets hang in corners, stones carved with eyes, charms of bronze, feathers tied with string. Soldiers wear them under tunics, touching them when coughing, when wounded. Some believe in herbs, others in gods, but all cling to hope. Archaeologists found such charms in graves near the wall, proof of belief carried to the last breath. Not all healing comes from Rome. In the Vecus, local women offer remedies, poultices of moss, teas of nettle, salves of honey and ash. Soldiers half mock, half trust. One comrade swears a native's brew eased his fever when Roman medicine failed. Another spits, saying it was witchcraft. But when pain fades, men return, coin in hand, pride swallowed. Knowledge crosses walls even when swords divide. The baths serve as healing too. Warm water eases joints, steam clears lungs. Yet baths spread sickness as well. Men coughing into mist, infections passing through shared pools. Still, no one refuses. The warmth is worth the risk. You step into steam, breath deep, body eased, even as cough lingers. Illness reshapes duty. A soldier too weak for patrol is assigned lighter work, sweeping, carrying water. Others fill his place. Grumbling, resentment grows, but so does pity. You share bread with a sick comrade, though hunger claws. At night you shift closer, sharing warmth. Survival is not only spears and shields, it is kindness too. Death comes quietly. Funerals rise often, pyres burning under grey sky, smoke drifts, carrying names whispered low. Sometimes entire barracks thins, men taken not by blades but by fever. Inscriptions on stones remember them simply. Here lies Marcus, soldier, faithful, taken too soon. Illness carves more names into stone than any raid. Yet, life continues. The medic sharpens tools, mixes herbs, prepares bandages. Soldiers cough, groan, recover. Some return to duty, scars deep but alive, others limp forever. Wounds never healed. The fort adapts, routines bend, never break. Rome endures, even through sickness. At night, you lie awake, chest heavy but breath steady. Around you, men snore, cough, mutter in fever. The brazier glows faint, shadows dancing. You clutch a small charm, a gift from comrade, carved bone shaped like hand. Does it heal? You do not know, but it comforts, and comfort itself is medicine. The frontier teaches harsh truth. Survival is fragile, health more precious than walls. Spears guard against men, but not against fevers. Shields turn blades, but not cough. Rome brought legions, stone, order, yet could not master sickness. And still you rise each day, trusting in medics' hands, in herbs, in gods, in comrades. Because to live here you must. For a listener now, it may echo faintly of modern fears. Empty pharmacies, crowded wards, whispers of contagion. The difference is only in tools, the dread, the hope, the need for healing. They have never changed. On Hadrian's wall, you feel them raw, unsoftened, carried in every breath. On Rome's northern frontier, stone walls held back tribes, but faith held back despair. Religion was everywhere. Temples, shrines, whispered prayers. Archaeologists have uncovered altars along Hadrian's wall, carved with Latin inscriptions, to Jupiter best and greatest. The cohort dedicates this gift. Others bear names less familiar. Local gods, river spirits, nymphs of springs. Rome brought its pantheon, but absorbed new deities, blending belief into survival. You wake before dawn and follow the cohort to the shrine near the gate. The altar rises from stone, smoke curling from offerings. A bull has been sacrificed. Its blood darkens the ground. The centurion lifts hands, voice ringing. Jupiter, protector, guard this wall. Soldiers murmur assent, some fervent, some weary. You bow your head, uncertain but obedient. Faith here is as much duty as drill. Shrines dot the forts, one to Mars, god of war, where soldiers scratch names into stone, one to Minerva, goddess of wisdom, where officers pray for judgment, one to Mithras, hidden underground, candles flickering in dark chambers. Archaeologists at Karabberg uncovered such a Mithraeum, with carvings of the bull slayer, stars painted on ceilings. In that dim place, men sought secret strength, a bond deeper than ranks. You descend once into such a temple. The air is cool, heavy with incense, torches flicker, casting shadows on carvings, Mithras plunging dagger into bull, blood flowing, torchbearers standing. Men kneel, whisper vows, share bread and wine in ritual. No women allowed, only soldiers, bound by oath. In the hush you feel weight of mystery, a power beyond empire. Other dedications speak to imported cults. At Halsteads, archaeologists found altars to Jupiter Dolichenes, a god born in Syria, worshipped by legionaries who had marched from distant lands. His figure is carved holding thunderbolt and axe, standing on bull, for a soldier stationed here, thousands of miles from home. The god was reminder of roots and promise of strength. Superstition thrives as well. A raven circles overhead. Some mutter it is omen of war. A comrade dreams of teeth falling, wakes pale, convinced of death. Soldiers toss dice not only for coin but for signs, reading fate in numbers. Amulets hang on necks. Bronze phalluses for luck, carved eyes to ward off evil, small figurines of household gods. Archaeologists found them buried with men, proof of belief carried into death. In the Vicus, locals worship their own gods, spirits of streams, groves, hills. Soldiers laugh at first, then join. A spring near the fort is lined with offerings, coins, brooches, pins, tossed into water for health, for fortune. You kneel, drop a coin, whisper for safety. Whether Roman or Briton, prayer is the same, hope made tangible. Festivals lighten gloom. Saturnalia in winter brings candles, gifts, reversal of roles. Officers serve men at table. Laughter fills halls. Dice roll freely. Even in exile, Rome's calendar holds. Gods remembered. Archaeologists found figurines of Saturn, lamps shaped like stars, remnants of those feasts. For a night, discipline loosens, superstition fades, joy reigns. There are others too. Perelia in spring, when fires burn to honour shepherd gods. Parentalia when men remember the dead, laying wreaths, whispering names. On the frontier these rites blend with local customs. Soldiers and villagers light bonfires together, feast on lamb and bread, raise cups of ale. For hours laughter bridges walls. But faith also tightens bonds. Before patrol you touch altar stone, tracing carved letters. Before battle you whisper to Mars, to Mithras, to any who listen. When storms rage you pray to Neptune, though sea lies far away. When illness strikes you beg Aesculapius for mercy, tying charms to your bed. Faith is shield against what iron cannot stop. Not all believe equally. Some scoff, mutter that gods are distant, useless. Others cling fiercely. Seeing signs in every bird, every flame, a comrade swears his amulet saved him. Arrow struck but turned aside. Another mocks, saying luck, not gods. Arguments flare, then fade. No proof, no certainty, only mead. You remember a night when thunder shook sky. Men huddled in barracks, fear sharp. One drew circle in ash, muttering spells. Another clutched charm, knuckles white. The centurion barked that Jupiter himself sent storm, a sign of strength. No one argued. Faith, superstition, command, all blurred in sound of thunder. Archaeologists uncovered curse tablets near the wall, thin sheets of lead, words scratched sharp, pleas for justice, curses on thieves, invocations of gods to punish. You imagine a soldier, cheated in dice, scratching name of rival, burying tablet by shrine. Faith not only protects, it avenges. At funerals, faith steadies grief. Pyres burn, smoke rising to sky. Priests chant, comrades murmur. Some whisper to Roman gods, others to native spirits, hoping soul finds peace. Inscriptions remain, stone carved, to the spirits of the departed. Faith ensures no one is forgotten, even at empire's edge. Even the smallest gestures matter. A soldier spits thrice to avert misfortune, ties knot in cord for protection, avoids stepping with left foot through gate. Tiny rituals, half belief, half reflex, fill daily life. Without them, uncertainty would choke. At night, you lie awake, amulet warm against chest. Around you, men mutter prayers, whispers blending into dark, some to Jupiter, some to Mithras, some to nameless spirits. You breathe slow, joining them because silence feels heavier. Faith does not end fear, but it fills emptiness. On Hadrian's wall, stone stands against men, faith stands against despair. Without it, the frontier would crush spirit faster than storms or hunger. With it, you endure, not certain, not safe, but steadied. Life in the barracks was lived shoulder to shoulder. 8 men crammed into one room, sharing straw beds, benches, and a fire. You knew every cough, every snore, every muttered word in sleep. Camaraderie was born from closeness, but so was conflict. On Hadrian's wall, friendships could save you, and grudges could ruin you. In the evenings, laughter often filled the room. Dice rattled on wooden boards. Coins clinked. Insults flew sharp but playful. A soldier from Gaul told stories of vineyards, while another from Syria recounted tales of deserts and caravans. You listened, eyes half closed, transported far from damp stone. In such moments, you felt family stronger than blood. Archaeologists found dice and gaming pieces in forts, silent reminders of those hours stolen from duty. Meals bound men too. A loaf passed hand to hand, stew shared from pot. The best cut saved for the weakest comrade. Hunger was constant, but generosity softened it. You remember one night your ration nearly gone, when a friend slipped you half his bread without word. That silent kindness warmed more than fire. Work also united. Digging ditches, hauling stone, repairing walls, misery shared became lighter. Jokes flew, songs rose, sweat mingled. Even punishment felt less cruel when endured together. Men whispering encouragement through gritted teeth. Camaraderie made discipline survivable. But tension brewed easily. Snoring too loud, boots left unclean, dice debts unpaid. Any could spark quarrel. Tempers flared fast in cramped space. Fists flew, knives sometimes drawn. Officers punished harshly, yet fights returned. One soldier once mocked another's accent, and blood stained the floor before dawn. Inscriptions mentioned punishments for brawls. Proof conflict was as real as friendship. Wine sharpened both bonds and blades. In taverns, laughter rose, arms thrown over shoulders, promises sworn. Hours later, those same arms swung fists. Broken noses, proof of loyalty, turned to rage. By morning, wounds were bound, friendships mended or ended. Still, solidarity often prevailed. On watch, comrades whispered through cold nights, sharing cloak, sharing stories. In battle, shield locked to shield. You trusted the man beside you more than any god. You knew his fears, his strength, his faults. He knew yours. Together you stood, or together you fell. Vindolanda tablets preserve glimpses of such bonds. One soldier begged a comrade to send him warmer socks and sandals. Another asked for a favour on behalf of his entire contubernium. The words are plain, but they show the web of reliance woven across damp stone. Brotherhood lived not only in battle, but in the small kindnesses of daily life. There were rituals of comradeship too. Before long marches, men would clasp wrists, muttering half prayers, half promises. We walk out, we return together. Some carved initials on beams above their beds, names entwined, a mark of loyalty more lasting than speech. Archaeologists have traced such scratches, faint but real, on barrack timbers. Death tested bonds hardest. When fever took a man, his fellows built pyre, carved stone, spoke his name. Archaeologists have uncovered tombstones, inscribed not only by family but by comrades, proof that friendship endured beyond life. The barracks felt emptier, laughter duller, yet the bond remained in memory. Conflict, however, could fester. Jealousy over women in the vicus, resentment over duties, rivalry in games, grudges lingered. Sometimes they ended in desertion, a man slipping away north, leaving comrades to curse his name. Trust, once broken, cut deeper than any blade. And yet, even after harsh words or fists, necessity forced reconciliation. You could hate a comrade at dice, but still rely on him to guard your back at midnight. Pride bent under the weight of duty. A nod, a muttered word, a cloak shared in silence. Thus grudges cooled, at least enough to march together again. Some barracks forged near families in themselves. Men adopted nicknames, shared secrets, celebrated birthdays. One Vindelander letter shows an invitation to a feast, written not to kin but to a fellow soldier's wife. Even celebration tied comrades together. Cakes were shared, lamps lit, wine poured, laughter echoing against wet stone. For a night the wall felt less like a prison, more like a village. Still, quarrels scarred. One story told of a soldier who stole extra rations. His fellows beat him near to death, not waiting for officers. Another mocked a comrade's homeland too often, and one night did not wake. Rumours whispered of pillow pressed down by angry hands. In cramped barracks, justice could be brutal, silent, hidden from records. Yet camaraderie outweighed conflict. Shared hardship welded men together. You remember a stormy night, roof leaking, wind screaming when your barracks huddled close. A Gaul sang low, others joined, voices weaving. For an hour, rain vanished, replaced by harmony. That was strength, not stone, not iron, but men standing together. Even officers knew its value. Centurions fostered rivalry between groups, but also praised unity. A cohort is only as strong as its weakest link, they said, and so men lifted each other, covered each other's faults, because failure by one punished all. In your own life on the wall, friendship meant survival. A comrade shared his cloak when yours tore. Another pulled you from ditch when mud sucked you down. Another took your watch when fever burned. Without them you would not endure. Conflict never vanished, but neither did laughter. In barracks, men argued, fought, reconciled, dice rolled, songs rose, bread passed, fists swung, camaraderie and conflict intertwined, inseparable. That was life on Rome's far frontier. Not harmony, not peace, but balance between love and strife, forged by necessity. At night, lying close on straw, you hear breaths of comrades, steady, familiar. Enemies may press north, storms may rage, illness may spread, but these men remain, brothers, rivals, friends, foes, all in one. On Hadrian's wall you survive together, or not at all. The wall felt endless, but the thought of home stretched farther still. Letters were threads binding soldiers to families, lovers, friends across the empire. On Hadrian's wall, where moors rolled grey and storms erased horizons, a wax tablet filled with clumsy words became lifeline. Archaeologists at Vindelander have uncovered dozens of such tablets, pleas for boots, for cloaks, for wine, but also for affection, for memory, for comfort carried across distance. By lamplight you scratch words with stylus into soft wax. Your Latin is plain, halting, but you try. You write to your brother in Gaul, the cold, the rain, the hunger. You ask for news of vineyards, of harvest, of faces left behind. You tell him you are alive, still marching, still standing. Will your words reach him? Couriers carry messages south, but months pass before replies return. If they return at all, distance is merciless. Some letters are practical. Send more socks, sandals, underclothes. One Vindolander tablet records exactly that plea. A soldier begging kin for warmth. Others speak of debt, money owed, dice lost. Pay too little. Still others are tender. The famous birthday invitation survives. Claudia Severa sends warmest greetings to her sister Sulpicia. On the third day before the Ides, I give you a warm invitation. In the bleakness of frontier life, such notes remind that warmth existed somewhere beyond the wall. You remember watching a comrade receive reply. His hands shook as he opened folded wax, eyes drinking every word. His wife wrote of children, of market days, of neighbours. Tears welled, laughter broke. For an hour he was not soldier but father, husband, man remembered. He read letter aloud, voice trembling, and others listened as though it were their own. In his joy you borrowed fragments of home. Yet longing cut deep when silence lasted. Months without word gnawed spirit. Some men grew bitter, muttering that families forgot them. Others carved names into wood, as if to preserve memory when paper failed. You saw one soldier fold blank tablet, sealing emptiness, pretending it held words from home. Better illusion than nothing. In the Vicus, longing took shape in other ways. Soldiers sought women not only for desire but for comfort. Someone to speak to, someone to call them by name rather than title. Children born from such unions softened absence of families far away. Still, for many, it was substitute, not cure. Homesickness remained like wound that never healed. Sometimes letters carried sorrow. News of deaths travelled slowly. Mother gone, father buried, wife remarried. A soldier would sit silent, tablet limp in hand, eyes vacant. No comfort sufficed. The wall already felt tomb. Such words sealed it tighter. Archaeologists found fragments of these letters too, abrupt lines, unfinished thoughts, wax scraped rough. Others wrote to officials instead of kin, requests for leave, for pay, for justice, complaints about commanders, about rations. Some tablets preserve such bureaucracy, voices of soldiers still pressing claims centuries later. Even longing wore official mask. At night, barracks glowed with low lamplight. Men hunched over tablets, styluses scratching, silence broken by sighs, by muttered curses when wax broke, by soft prayers that words might fly swift. The room filled with ghosts of places you had never seen but longed for. Fields of wheat, warm kitchens, wives' laughter, children's shouts. The frontier shrank in those moments, replaced by empire remembered. Delivery was uncertain. Messages passed from hand to hand, fort to fort, wagon to ship, road to villa. Storms drowned some. Raids burned others. Forgetful couriers lost more. Still, men wrote. Hope clung to fragile tablets as stubborn as ivy on stone. You recall escorting courier south once. Days of mud and rain. The satchel on his back held more than wax and wood. It held lives stretched across provinces, words heavier than spears. When you returned weeks later, men crowded you, eyes desperate. Any reply, any word. Some found joy, some despair, many nothing. Silence cut deepest of all. Even officers wrote with longing. Commanders sent reports, yes, but also petitions to wives, invitations to friends. Rank did not guard against distance. One centurion read aloud letter from his son, voice cracking. Soldiers looked away, pretending not to notice his tears. Longing shaped imagination. Some carved images of loved ones into wood, crude but heartfelt, others sketched faces in dirt wiped away before inspection. You once found small brooch hidden in comrade's cloak, gift from sister, carried through years. It shone brighter than bronze armor. In winter, longing sharpened. Darkness stretched endless, snow piled, hunger bit. Men clung to letters, rereading until words blurred. Some memorized entire lines, whispering them like prayer before sleep. Others refused to open replies, fearing sorrow, fearing proof that lives had moved on without them. Still, letters offered strength. A soldier who had none received note promising love, and suddenly he marched lighter. Another, on verge of desertion, stayed when reply spoke of pride, of family waiting. Words steadied men better than wine, sharper than steel. At funerals, letters sometimes burned with bodies, ashes rising with names. Better to send words skyward than leave them behind. Archaeologists found charred fragments, messages that followed dead across fire, even longing endured into death. And so, on Hadrian's wall, letters were lifelines. They carried hope, sorrow, memory, illusion. They shrank empire's vastness into wax and wood. They reminded soldiers they were not only guards on bleak frontier, but sons, brothers, fathers, husbands. Without them, spirit might break faster than body. You lie on straw, tablet at side, stylus cooling in hand. Around you, men murmur names, whisper words they plan to send. The brazier glows low, smoke curling, shadows soft. Outside, rain falls steady, north wind howls. Inside you write, I am well, do not forget me. Whether answer comes, you do not know, but the act itself carries you. The wall was built for this, for the moments when silence broke, when the northern tribes surged south in fury. Most nights passed with only wind and owls, with patrols walking the parapet in weary rhythm. But sometimes horns blared, gates shook, and the enemy came in numbers. These were the great raids, etched into memory as deeply as stone. The first sign was often smoke. A farm to the south was burning, cattle driven off, villagers screaming. Scouts galloped back, breathless, shouting about war bands gathering in the hills. Word spread through the fort, like fire itself. Armor buckled quickly, shields lifted, spears clutched. Fear licked at bellies, but discipline masked it. Each man moved to his place, drilled 1,000 times. From the parapet you saw them, shadows on the moor, then shapes, then men, dozens, sometimes hundreds, faces daubed with blue, hair wild, cloaks flapping. They carried spears, axes, torches, their cries cut the night, fierce and high. The wall loomed above them, but they did not falter. Stones rattled under their feet, arrows glinted in torchlight. The order came. Archers loosed, shafts hissed down, thudding into earth, into shields, into flesh. Some tribesmen fell, writhing. Others clambered forward, stepping over bodies, torches arced, flames striking wood, smoke rising. You hurled stones from parapet, heavy blocks crashing, breaking bones. Still they pressed. At the gate, the true clash came, rammed with logs, struck with iron. Hinges groaned. Inside, soldiers braced. Scooter locked. Pillar raised. The centurion roared, voice cutting through din. Hold! The gate shuddered. Wood splintered. Then it burst and chaos flooded in. You thrust Gladius forward, shield smashing, body straining. Enemy eyes wide, teeth bared, breath hot. Their blades crude but deadly. Their fury unrelenting, clash after clash, iron ringing, blood spraying. You fought shoulder to shoulder, the formation holding though each man staggered. Training became lifeline. Thrust, shield, step, thrust again. The ground turned slick with rain and blood. Screams pierced the night, yours, theirs, comrades falling. One man beside you crumpled, throat cut, shield slipping from hand. Another dragged him back, only to be struck himself. The wall stones turned dark, slippery underfoot. Above, horns blared again. Reinforcements from another fort rushing along the wall road. Their torches flickered in distance, a line of light snaking closer. The tribe saw it too. Momentum faltered. Shouts changed tone, retreat whispered into rage. They pulled back, dragging dead, hurling last curses. In moments the field emptied, leaving silence heavier than noise. You stood gasping, chest heaving, arm trembling with weight of gladius. Around you, men leaned on shields, eyes hollow, fires still burned, corpses sprawled, smoke stung. Victory, they called it. Survival, you felt it. But raids never ceased. Weeks later, another came. Stronger, at different stretch. They knew weak points. They tested relentlessly. Sometimes forts held, sometimes villages burned. The wall was not perfect shield, only line to delay, to bleed enemy before deeper south. Archaeology speaks of these raids, burn layers in settlements, arrowheads embedded in stone, mass graves. At Vindolanda, excavators uncovered charred beams that once formed barracks, blackened by sudden assault. At Corbridge, piles of sling stones suggest desperate defence. History names no dates, no leaders, only scars in soil. Yet for soldiers, they were life. Endless watch, endless fear, broken by sudden storm of violence. After raids, funerals followed. Pyres smoked day and night, prayers muttered, comrades mourned, yet new recruits arrived, replacing dead, cycle repeating. Rome demanded wall stand, no matter cost, and so it stood, rebuilt, repaired, manned again. The great raids reminded soldiers why they drilled, why they marched, why they endured hunger and cold, not for glory, not for conquest, but for survival. Beyond the wall lay tribes untamed, fierce as storm, patient as shadow. Their attacks carved terror, but also unity. In those nights, you felt Rome most keenly, not in stone, not in coin, but in line of men refusing to break. You remember one raid above all, the sky black, rain slashing sideways, torches smothered by wind. You saw nothing but shapes lunging, teeth gleaming. You struck blindly, body aching, ears ringing with clash of steel, hours blurred into eternity. When dawn came, fields lay strewn with dead, fog rising from bloodied grass. Survivors stood silent, unable to speak. In that silence you understood the wall's truth. It was not barrier, it was crucible. Daylight revealed wreckage, burned huts, broken carts, livestock gone. Villagers wept, soldiers limped, officers counted dead, yet already repairs began. Stones lifted, gates reforged, ditches dug anew. Life pressed on, because it had to. Rome endured not by invincibility, but by refusal to stop. Still, memory lingered. At night, when wind howled, you heard echoes of cries, saw flashes of painted faces. Sleep broke, sweat-drenched, hand-clutching sword even in dreams. Fear never vanished, only dulled by routine. But so did pride. You had stood, you had lived, you had held line. Some raids spread further. Word came of warbands slipping past forts, striking towns, dragging captives north. Soldiers muttered curses. Officers ordered harsher patrols. Punitive expeditions followed. Cohorts marching beyond the wall, burning villages in revenge. But victory was never final. The tribes melted into forests, moors, shadows. Rome struck, Rome retreated, Rome waited. And there were raids when discipline itself cracked. Panic surged, shields dropped, men fled inside gates. Officers beat them back into line, cursing, threatening death. Those moments scarred deeper than wounds, shame etched harder than fear. Rumours spread, names whispered, trust strained. Yet still, next time, men stood again, for there was no choice. The raids etched themselves into bones of wall and souls of soldiers. Each stone carried blood, each field memory. Centuries later, ruins still whisper of nights when tribes came screaming, when Rome braced, when men lived or died on blade's edge. And you, soldier on Hadrian's wall, felt it roar. The great raids were not stories, not inscriptions, but breathless nights when empire trembled. And yet, in trembling, it endured. The wall endures, but time reshapes it. Years slip by and the rhythm of garrisons settles into something quieter, slower, more fragile. You have walked these stones in every season, seen every storm. What once felt like punishment now feels like the very frame of your life. Morning still comes with horn's call, though its sound carries less urgency than in your youth. Armour still clinks, though straps are worn, edges dulled, metal patched again and again. The wall itself carries scars. Stones shift, turf crumbles, ditches fill with weeds. Repairs continue, but never fast enough. You notice gaps linger longer, breaches patched with timber instead of cut stone. It is still Rome's frontier, but the strength feels thinner now. Comrades change around you. Young recruits arrive from provinces you have never seen, some from Africa, some from Gaul, some from the East. They look at Moors with wide eyes as you once did and complain of cold as if their words could change wind. You smile at their shock, but pity too, for you know the years that lie ahead. Old faces vanish, some to sickness, some to retirement, some to unmarked graves beyond fort walls. The barracks feels emptier even when full. The vicus too shifts. Traders grow grey, children grow tall, taverns echo with voices new and old, marriages tie soldiers to locals. Children run along the road, half Roman, half Briton, both and neither. The line between garrison and village blurs. Rome meant to draw a barrier here, but people weave threads across it, binding frontier into shared home. Archaeology hints at this mingling. Northern brooches found in forts, Roman pots in tribal lands. Enemies at times, neighbours too. Yet shadows linger. Raids still strike, though less often, less fierce. Tribes have not vanished. They watch, wait, test. Some nights horns still blare, and you run to arms, though slower now, knees aching. Each fight feels harder, recovery longer, but you endure because habit endures, and habit is stronger than fear. Letters fade with years. Some families die, others stop writing. Distance too heavy, wax tablets once treasured lie untouched. You carry them still, though, folded in chest, words of a brother long gone, of a mother whose grave you never saw. They remind you of who you were, though not of who you have become. Your world shrinks to wall itself. Patrols, drills, meals, repairs. Yet within that narrow frame there is life. Dice still clatter, songs still rise, laughter still softens cold nights. Kindness lingers. A comrade shares cloak, another brings extra stew, a child offers wildflowers from Moor. These gestures grow brighter with years, for you know their rarity. Superstition never leaves either. Charms hang in barracks, cursed tablets buried in soil. New gods arrive, old ones remain. You light lamps to Mithras, whisper prayers to Mars, nod to local spirits when passing springs. Faith keeps watch when eyes grow weary. Without it, silence would crush you. Seasons blur. Winter's long, summer's brief, autumn rains endless. Your body stiffens with each passing year, joints swelling, breath shortening, yet duty continues. Orders come less often, inspections laxer, but still the wall must be manned. Rome may stretch thin, but it has not forgotten frontier, or so you tell yourself. There are rumours. Some say legions pulled from elsewhere, empire strained, enemies pressing in far-off provinces. Whispers spread that wall itself may be abandoned one day. You scoff, but doubt gnaws. What would it mean for stones you built, blood you spilled to be left to weeds? Could Rome truly walk away from this edge? You imagine it sometimes. Forts empty, barracks silent, shrines crumbling, sheep grazing where drills once thundered. owls nesting in towers where sentries once called, villages fading, fields untended, smoke rising only from raiders' fires. The thought chills deeper than northern wind, to serve lifetime and see it fade. What meaning then remains? And yet daily rhythms cling. Patrols march, horns call, meals are ladled into bowls. At night, soldiers still lean over dice, laughter still breaks silence. Children still run through streets of Vicus, shouting. A smith still hammers at forge, sparks bright against dusk. Life persists, stubborn, unyielding. One evening you stand on parapet, sky burning with sunset. The wall glows red, the moors gold, the horizon infinite. Younger men speak of leaving service, of dreams south in warmer lands. You listen, but do not answer. For you, the wall is not exile, it is life. You no longer imagine vineyards of Gaul, markets of Rome. Your world is stone and wind, and you belong to it as much as it to you. Age settles into bones, but also into mind. You accept storms, hunger, raids, silence. They are not curses, but companions. The wall no longer feels like prison. It feels like grave marker raised early, vast and enduring. You are carved into it, whether name remembered or not. Night falls. Barracks hum with low voices, fewer than before, softer too. You lie on straw, cloak pulled close. Around you comrades breathe, steady rhythm familiar for decades. Beyond walls, moors stretch silent, stars cold. You close eyes, listening to crackle of brazier, smell of smoke, warmth of bodies close. You are older now, slower, warier, but you are still here. The wall has shaped you, held you, claimed you. You are part of it. Your sweat in its mortar, your blood in its soil, your years carved into its memory. Empires rise, empires fall, but the wall endures, and within it, so do you. You're safe now. The wall, the barracks, the storms, the raids, all of it begins to fade. The weight of armor lifts. The sound of horns drifts away. What remains is only the quiet rhythm of breath. You're steady, unbroken. Imagine lying beneath thick blankets. The fires glow soft behind closed eyes. The moors stretch out, but they no longer threaten. The horizon is only horizon, not edge of empire, not battlefield. The wall itself becomes gentle, no longer fortress, only line of stone resting in dusk. You hear the soft murmur of comrades, their voices distant, like echoes of old songs. Laughter rises, faint and warm, not sharp as before. You see a child offering flowers, a friend sharing bread, a letter read by lamplight. Small kindnesses linger, sharper than fear. The seasons soften too. Winter no longer bites, summer no longer blinds. Instead, air feels calm, wind gentle, rain quiet as whisper on roof. Time itself slows, no longer marked by horns or drills. Only stillness remains, carrying you deeper into rest. If you listen closely, you might still hear footsteps on parapet or clash of blades far away. But those sounds grow faint, dissolving into silence. The wall stands, but its stones are light now, no burden. You need not guard. You need not march. You simply breathe, warm, safe. You are not alone. Around you, figures gather, not soldiers, not strangers, but companions. Their presence soothes, familiar, even if nameless. Together, you drift, not into battle, but into sleep. The empire fades, the frontier dissolves, but you remain cradled in quiet. The story closes not with clash, but with comfort. And as your breath steadies, the world narrows to stillness. You are safe. You are held. You are home. Sweet dreams,